Hello, hello, hello. I am Oliver V, one of your lovely mods on the MTG Paper Legacy Discord. The guy down below me is the one and only Mick Diff. Mick Diff, how you doing today?
Doing all right. You know, got to sleep in, can't complain.
Yeah, Mick Diff and I, we were actually right coming off of our invitational stream, which happened yesterday. Both of us, we hit the hay pretty hard. Let's put it like that. But regardless, we got to move on. We're talking about our April League playoffs right now. We are looking at a quarterfinals game, quarterfinals number 2, between Nacho on Esper Vial and Big C, one of our resident Goblin experts, on a pretty spicy version of Goblins, I have to say. For those who haven't looked at the deck list yet, you can look at them at the bottom, down underneath the video. This is a Goblins list that is playing the one and only Masked Vandal, the green shapeshifter from Kaldheim. I have a question, Mike. What are you
Hmm.
thinking that we're going to see in this matchup?
Um, I mean, I'm hoping that we see Masked Vandal come in and destroy an Aether Vial, because that would be pretty sweet tech. Um, but other than that, I think we're gonna see some of the normal, goblin slinging that we should expect from Big C at this point, and I'm hoping that we see a vial in of um what's the
Pick,
one that's
pick a
what's
random card. Peacekeeper, Plague Engineer, Recruiter of the Guard, all the Vile cards. It should. No,
um
go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, it's not even in the list. Containment. I was hoping we were gonna see a vial in of a containment priest in response to a lackey.
Oh, that would be tight. So one thing for us to note for these top 8 matches, actually for the entire top 16 for our league finals, it's an open deck list. So these players do know what the opposing person is on. So they aren't really going to be operating with that unknown information when taking their opening hands, for instance. One thing of note, we did talk about how Big C is kind of one of our resident Goblin experts, but at the same time, Nacho is, I would call an Aether Vial expert. Let's put it like that. I do not believe I've ever played against Nacho without him being on a deck with 4 Aether Vials. And he's just gone through the entire gambit. If there's Aether Vial in a list, he has played it before. That is for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think I played against him. He was on some sort of colorless control or colorless post, maybe.
Did it have Aether Vial in it?
No.
Okay, never mind. Well, I'm completely wrong then. I only play with Nacho when he's playing an Aether
Oh,
Vial deck,
this
apparently.
was this was like 10 months ago. So
Okay, never mind. Never mind then. The one thing I do have to say before we go into this, I can only imagine that this matchup is going to be an absolute slog. We are looking at 2 value-based decks, right? Goblins is the one that's able to take the aggro role if it so chooses, or if that's how Big C's hand kind of lines up. Um, but both decks can just be 2-for-1 cities, absolutely. Of note, Nacho going with the turn 1 Aether Vial. The other interesting note of this matchup is the mana bases, really, where Esper Vial has this reputation of being a really fragile mana base. Like 1 or 2 wastelands can just completely blow you off things, or like blow you off of being able to play your cards. But this turn 1 Aether Vial start is exactly where you want to be.
so I will say that the turn one Aether Vial off of a wasteland when you see a fetch land on the other side of the field is a little bit suspicious. I do think that that kind of signals that Nacho's hand might be a little land light. Um, so we'll see what comes of that. I think it's okay to keep a land light hand if you've got that Aether Vial start, but leading on that wasteland is a little bit suspicious to me.
It is interesting, right? Where it could be this potential heads up play, even if Nacho has, say, like Tundra and UC in hand, to start on the wasteland for exactly this reason, right? So we see Big C slamming a wasteland down and just blowing up the first target that he sees. So if you do have duels in hand, in theory, starting with that wasteland to just give Big C the option to blow that up before it's actually hitting your color sources, that is a potential play around that Nacho did at that moment. But let's see
That is a good
how
point.
many land drops we have going forward. We see
Well, we
Big
did see
C.
one.
Yeah, we see Big C off to a little bit of a stumbling start, right? This is not what you really want to be seeing from Goblins. Um, especially
Notably
yeah, go ahead.
notably, Goblins only has 6 one-drops in the deck. So not seeing a one-drop, I think is reasonable, especially if, Goblins can play the control side of things with the wastelands, the ports, uh, you know, I think it's reasonable to not have seen a turn 1 play, but, especially if, like, keeping those good wasteland hands.
Oh, and we are seeing one of the, what is that card called again? How come I
Crater
don't remember?
Maker.
Yeah, we are seeing one of the Creator Makers come down, one of the 2 in the list. Really great for Nacho that Nacho actually had the second Aether Vial to deploy, so this, Creator Maker isn't going to completely be knocking them off of being able to do the Aether Vial plan. Um, we're gonna have to see the way that it goes for sure. Looks like Nacho's tanking for a moment. I believe both players kept 7, right?
Um, I'm not 100% sure,
Yeah,
but
I
we
thought
are seeing Big C going up to 21 there. Nacho not wasting any time, you know, using the swords to plowshares on that Crater Maker before Big C untaps and has the mana to do anything about his vials.
oh,
Uh,
this Meddling Mage coming down is interesting. So, of note for those who are watching, these matches are actually pre-recorded. I'm not quite sure who the streamer was who recorded this, and then we get back to them later to commentate on them. But hopefully, get a graphic come up that lets us know exactly what was named by this meddling mage.
yeah, I mean, so what are you naming here?
It's really interesting. I guess it depends on Nacho's hand. My first kind of thinks that I would go with is Goblin Matron, kind of to prevent Big C from being able to tutor for the answers that you want. That's also one of the cards that actually is for us. There's other cards that you can be marginally blown out by, right? So you, for instance, could just name Muxus out of fear of that. And oh, we're seeing Munitions Expert. So that's one of the other ones. A good 3 of in the list, and just one of the key 2-for-1 cards, right? Removal and a body. We're seeing Goblin Matron come down though. What do you think he's going to be getting here?
So, um, I think it is going to again depend on the rest of the makeup of Big C's hand. But we did not see a lackey or a what's the other one that does the same thing?
Oh, the 2-drop one. I don't believe that's
Yeah,
actually in the list. The
it
Warrenson
is not
Theater.
in the list.
Looks like we're getting a Trash Master. For me, I kind of thought it
Okay.
was either going to be Trash Master or the Goblin Ringleader and just try to go hard on the value plan. But I really do like getting this Trash Master when we're looking down 2 vials. And
Yeah.
also, of note, you're completely right with Nacho having a low land hand, right? We just had the Wasteland to start and the UC, or I'm sorry, the Polluted Delta that fetched for this Tundra. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if this brainstorm is digging for a little bit of lands, especially after we see this Goblin Trash Master being tutored for on Big C's side.
Important to note, I think your assessment of leading on that wasteland to sort of bait out anything else, so as to not have Nacho's soul colored source wasted was a heads up. Was definitely a heads up play from Nacho there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just kind of what you have to be expecting. Where it's so interesting in this matchup, where one kind of would naturally assume that goblins would be the aggressor in this. But in truth, the decks both have these really interesting control variant or aspects of them, where either of the decks can really take on the control role here.
And I
And
think that's the big difference between this, like the more traditional goblins list, as opposed to the Turbo Muxus list, which is it foregoes the ports, it foregoes the um uh wastelands, it foregoes the vials, I believe, as well. Um in order to just turbo that, right in the name, Turbo Muxus, get the Muxus down. Whereas this one definitely can play a much longer game.
of note, what a great soul herder. So, with the known information that now there's Goblin Trash Master in hand, just go ahead and flicker it and put it on Trash Master so you don't get blown out on your mana producers. Note, though, that Brainstorm did not find an additional land drop, so we are just completely locked in on these Aether Vials. If there is a Goblin or a Munitions Expert in hand, the Munitions Expert will be able to blow up the Meddling Mage, and then the Trash Master will be able to come down. So, this is getting a little bit scary for sure if you're on Nacho's side. But let's see what's going to be coming in. A Plague Engineer on Goblins. Ooh, that does feel good. That, of course, what it's going to do is it's going to require Big C to get another 2/2 or bigger Goblin in play before he can utilize a Munitions Expert to blow up the Plague Engine or to blow up the Meddling Mage. Just because the Munitions Expert will enter, the trigger will go on the stack, but it's going to die by state-based action, so then it'll only have one Goblin to count.
So we are seeing an attack for 4 off of the from Nacho here. Um, and what are we flickering with Soul Herder?
Looks like we flickered the Plague Engineer. Interesting that we didn't choose to use the to flicker the Meddling Mage just to give it pseudo vigilance. I guess it doesn't matter. It's pretty marginal. There was no opportunity for us to get blown out by that on if we're on Nacho's side of the table here. Um, but it doesn't really matter. You're not going to block with the Meddling Mage, so it's marginal. And
Oh,
the card, the card that we were here to talk about, the Masked Vandal, is coming down. This, of course, is the new Kaldheim card, 2 mana, 1/3 shapeshifter. Turns out shapeshifters or changelings are also goblins, so you can pay for those off of a cavern. Um, and of course, the other part of this is just it as it enters the battlefield, you may exile a creature card from the graveyard. If you do, exile target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. And so it turns out Nacho does in fact have some artifacts or enchantments that would be nice to exile at this moment.
it looks like in response to the Masked Vandal trigger, we're gonna vial in a recruiter here. Um, I I do like the Masked Vandal. I think the so in this list, we're substituting that third Badlands that we normally see for a one of Taiga, which I think probably is fine, given the fact that you also have the 4 caverns, and 3 mountains to roll with.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to hurt so much. I mean, your only black pips that you're worried about are your 2 sling gang lieutenants and your 3 munitions experts. And so you have the 4 vials, you have all the fetches to get to the 2 badlands, and then you also have your caverns as well, right? I'm sorry, your vials. I already mentioned caverns.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem too bad, and it definitely paid off in spades here, right? So Big C is now at the point that there are 2 goblin bodies in play. A munitions expert will be able to actually kill the meddling mage, so the trash master can potentially come down and blow up the aether vial. But at this point, I think we're just gonna be holding on to the skyclave that was found, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing on the field right now that I think merits a Skyclave. And we're gonna see another big smash from Nacho here, which the other part of the shapeshifter text makes that making that a goblin is that it is also now a 0/2 as opposed to a 1/3.
Not the best
Um,
blocker, but
no,
oh my goodness, the Soul Herder with the Recruiter just feels so great. So, do we get Flicker Wisp here? What do you think is the net? We have to get a 3 drop. Oh, we get the
Baron.
Baron. Baron, I love that.
I Baron is such a fun card.
Yeah, you get to what's so fantastic about this is now there's the potential save also for any permanents if or I'm sorry, any not just creatures if Big C does start to do munitions experts to interact with them. This is starting to really go downhill for Big C for sure. At this point, even if you blow up the vial again, for if I don't know, I don't even know how it could disappear. Or I guess exactly the other crater maker. If that it comes off the top and we're able to blow up the vial, I think we're just still so incredibly behind at this point, just from the Soul Herder beats, honestly, with your little other tutus as well. That I'm not sure Big C's gonna be able to bring this one back.
So the big difference here, right, between like a goblins deck and we'll say another classic tribal based deck is goblins is not as much of a critical mass deck compared to elves, but you still need a very significant number of creatures because you are winning on the beats.
Of note, we see a force coming down on the 3 drop haste goblin. Which one is that? The one that reduces cost?
The
Goblin War Chief. I do believe that there was. I think that Big C overpaid, forgetting that there was the other Goblin War Chief in play. Looks like he did pay for the 3 mana for that. And I don't think it's going to be hugely impactful at this current moment, but the force coming down, eliminating a blocker. We see Flicker Wisp being vialed in right before we go to the end step, it looks like. Uh,
so didn't we didn't need to recruit the flicker wisp because it was already in hand.
Seems fantastic. And now we're just presenting lethal at this point, right? Or at least forcing jump blocks.
2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yes. There's
13,
13 power on.
and you're able to remove one of the blockers with the Baron that is in hand, so Nacho will be able to untap, bounce one of the Goblins, and then at that point, yeah, we're just scooping it up. That is onboard lethal with the known Baron, and can I just say that game was absolutely fascinating. Nacho with seeing 2 lands the entire game, both of them getting away, but the double Vial being able to get there and just make Nacho, I mean, Nacho snowballed that advantage so incredibly, right? Like, as soon as the Soul Herder started flickering, specifically the Recruiter, it was the value engine was just incredible.
I love Soul Herder. It is such a cool and fun card. Uh, it's a blast to play with if you've never tried it.
Beautiful art as well. Always love me that Seth McKinnon art. Let's jump
Yeah,
into sideboards real quick, actually. So
sure.
let's look at Nachos first since he's on the left, I guess.
Yeah. So Nacho's looking at one surgical extraction, one swords to plowshares, one disenchant, one aether sworn canonist, one gilded drake, one remorseful cleric, one rest in peace, two force of negation, one hull breacher, two plague engineer, two skyclave aberration, and it's a very time raveler.
We got some choices there. So when I look at this, I see the initial cards that pop out to me as ones that I'm interested in are Source of Plowshares, potentially Disenchant. I don't think you're going to need it for another reason that I'll talk about in just a moment. I really like the Gilded Drake as well. Um, this is just another creature deck, and we all know how amazing it is to be able to do the Flicker Gilded Drake plan. That's kind of what this deck was in its initial conception when, oh, what was the person who made it? Whatever, doesn't matter. But anyway, I really like the Gilded Drake. At the same time, the Plague Engineers are slam dunks, and I also like the Skyclave Apparitions. And the real reason I think that we don't need to bring in the Disenchant for your opponent's vials is with us going up on Skyclave Apparitions, right? For cards that I think you can really take, that would be my first ones I'm looking at in terms of cutting. Uh, I want to keep in the Peacekeepers. I want to potentially go down on the Venser Shaper Savant. I also am unsure about Palace Jailer. While it removes a creature, you are dealing with this like really wide creature deck. Goblins can go so wide with the token makers. Um, that I am really worried about introducing the Monarch and also about my opponent being able to get it back. Teferi doesn't seem the best, and honestly, Force of Will feels like a super easy cut for me as well. While you can force an early Vial, you're playing as a 4 Cavern deck, and that's just always the fear for me.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. Teferi seems not great. Venser seems not great. Palace Jailer is 4 mana, and like you might be able to get there, but you're not taking that vial up to 4 unless that's already in hand. And if it is, that's a huge signal and really makes a lot of things dead in this matchup. Um,
Yeah, it's not that the
I
Palace Jailer doesn't have play. It's just that these other cards that we have potentially bring
Yeah,
in, they just feel
no,
so much better, right?
absolutely. And I would much rather have bring in 3 mana cards and take out a 4 mana card, just because of the reliance on Vial in that matchup, especially in a Wasteland matchup where uh, Esper Vial has it doesn't have that many basics to fetch. So uh,
Yeah.
did Aether Vial used to play Tomic?
The Distinguished Advocate, the 2 mana 2/3 that interacts with lands in the graveyard. It might have. In I actually don't believe it did. It's always been pretty tight on slots.
Or
Like the
the
2/3 flyer, and there's two other texts. One of them being lands can't come out of the graveyard, so it's kind of like anti-land tech, correct?
Well, no, the one that, makes it so that your lands can't be targeted.
Oh, that as well. Oh, I don't know if it ever was. don't believe in the recent iterations of it that it has been, and I don't know that much going back. Of note, it
Okay,
should be saying,
yeah,
even though we're saying Teferi's potential to come out, the ability to reset an opponent's vial is pretty fantastic. So,
yeah.
again, all these ideas that we aren't the one playing the deck. Every legacy player has their own internal biases of how they approach certain matchups. So, I would not be surprised if Nacho sideboards differently than what we would expect. But
Big
let's jump
C's
over.
sideboard. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's so true. We need to get going.
Uh, 1 Chalice of the Void, 2 Pithing Needle, 1 Pyroblast, 2 Red Blast, 2 Surgical, 1 Tarfire, another Masked Vandal, 2 Fairy Macabre, a Mind Break Trap, and a Pyrokinesis.
The initial cards I look at are the Mass Vandal, the Pyrokinesis, potentially the Tarfire, and I guess potentially the Red Elemental Blast, although I'm not the biggest fan of that. You don't want Pithing Needle for your opponent's Aether Vial when you're on them yourself. Um, but potentially the red elemental blast really it only is great against the soul herder plan and the meddling mages if you're really afraid of them. So I don't think those are going to come in, but the Tarfire and Mass Vandal and potentially Pyrokinesis feel like the best way to do it. And real quick, we are seeing a Goblin Lackey swing in on turn 2. This is exactly the start that Big C wants. This is the aggressive hand that we were talking about Goblins being able to present in this matchup that the Esper Vial list is not able to do on their end. But yeah,
Nacho fetching up that Tundra there. We're probably going to see a swords here.
oh, thank goodness. That is the one answer that you have for the turn 1 Goblin Lackey when you are playing Esper Vial. That is fantastic. Both players keeping
There
7 of note.
there are not a ton of things scarier at this point in Legacy than a turn 2 swing from a Goblin Lackey. Because Muxus is scary.
Absolutely. Seeing an upkeep port from Big C and taking down the Tundra, but we're just seeing Caracas and slam the Aether Vial, and now that port is not going to be able to be that much more meaningful. Fetch away with Big C real quick as we're kind of watching our players shuffle and move forward with the game. Do you disagree with my sideboard thoughts at all? Is there anything differently that you would expect out of Big C?
So the only thing potentially is if you're going to cut some number of Aether Vial and bring in the Pithing Needle, I don't dislike Pithing Needle because you are the Wasteland deck. So being able to just waste your opponent out of the game and Pithing Needle Aether Vial is such a good prison situation for Big C. So that's the only one I'm not sure about. I do kind of like Needle here.
Yeah, I can absolutely respect that thought. I wonder if maybe that's more of a plan when you're on the draw, where Big C has
Mm,
the advantage
yeah.
going first, and in theory can get more out of his vials. But again, we'll have to see what the players are actually doing. We are seeing a turn 3 fetch for Badlands and go ahead and slam that Goblin Trashmaster. I cannot imagine that this Aether Vial is going to be making it around the turn or making it
No.
around another turn vial, turn cycle, not turn vial.
Yeah, I mean the vial might get turned. It does have the ability to vial in a one drop here.
That is very true. Of
At the
course,
very least,
no
he
one
might.
drops in the deck though. Unfortunately, we do know. Ooh, and here comes down a meddling mage. What do you think it's named here?
um, I at this point kind of like naming maybe Skirk Prospector because being able to now that you've dealt with the lackey, that's I think Big C's next avenue to a really quick victory.
Yeah, Big C
Um,
having to decide here right now whether he cares more about the vial or the where or the
munitions expert.
yeah, the vial or the meddling mage. It's interesting. My thoughts always when I see these come down is I would kind of want to be hitting the value cards out of goblins. So the two right away that I'm thinking of are Goblin Matron and Goblin Ringleader, especially as Big C is about to be hitting land drop number 4.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, it makes sense. I mean, munitions expert is a necrotottle effect in this matchup the vast majority of the time. It is just a clear 2-for-1.
We see a Sling Gang lieutenant from Big C though, which is also one of the scarier cards in this matchup.
Sling Gang makes these math situations that are just like you play against goblins, and all of a sudden you're like, "Am I dead?" And all of a sudden, it's the classic playing against affinity thing where you need to also know affinity math just to know whether or not you're dead on the subsequent turn. And munitions expert is that one where you need like to double check yourself about 3 different times just to make sure you're not dead and you didn't do something wrong. And let's see, we see the 3 mana play coming down. Potentially the what is it? The Skyclave apparition could be coming down here. That would be quite good, just to be able to hit out, be able to hit the 4 drop. Of course, it's already got made value by going out on tokens, but at least it alleviates the threat of the burnout later in the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, if you have a Skyclave in hand here, I assume you're just slamming it on that Sling Gang.
Oh, here
But
comes
we
the
see a
recruiter.
recruiter.
So what do you get here? Peacekeeper isn't
Um,
amazing.
no.
Is it just Soul Herder?
Ooh, Plague
Plague
Engineer.
Engineer. Of course,
Yeah.
that's a tutorable target. Oops. Yeah,
Uh,
that seems pretty good.
Sling Gang Lieutenant, notably a 1/1.
Oh, it is. I keep thinking it's a 1-3. No, it's a 1-1.
And if you want to force Big C, I mean, Big C can absolutely sack all three of them to Sling Gang. in response, but that's a trade I'll take.
Yeah, turning it into a 4-mana Lightning Helix, I will gladly do that. That
Yeah.
card otherwise can deal about 8 damage to you at probably at the middle ground, but I would love to just turn that into a Lightning Helix against me and have the Plague Engineer down to deal with all the future 1/1s.
Seeing Big C asking cards in hand. So 3 unknowns from Nacho.
Can we just talk about how stylish Big C is today for this recording? I am loving that shirt.
It's very floral, very colorful. What
Trash Master.
is that a trash master? Okay.
So, of note, that stops Plague Engineer. That, of course, gives all goblins +1/+1. So you're going to play that Plague Engineer, and they're going to just go back to being 1/1s.
Yeah. Um I assume if Nacho has any interaction here, it is going to be
Yeah, swords at this moment would be fantastic. Fetch swords, the Trash Master, take 3, being able to slam the Plague Engineer. Um,
I think I would swords in on my own turn
Interesting.
so that
You would take the extra 3 damage.
so that on my turn my black source doesn't get ported. Oh, but
They're
port's
tapped down, right?
tapped. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So never mind.
Seeing the second fetch come down. It looks like the Plague Engineer is about to be. Oh, wait. There's no black source there. We're going to need to. Oh, Skyclave.
Skyclave. Okay.
I can respect this. Skyclave going to be targeting the Trash Master. I imagine. Don't want to be targeting that the 4-mana 1/1, that's for sure. Goodbye, Trash Master.
Yeah, you can go ahead and just put that right into exile.
It ain't coming back.
Unfortunately, I've been on that side of Skyclave far too frequently. Initially, I thought it was like the Palace Jailer where I would get it back, and then I read the card because it turns out reading the card explains the card, and I
Who
was
would have
like,
thought
"Wow,
it?
this is way better than I thought it was."
Yeah, it turns out a generic 1/1 is not anywhere near as good as a Heritage Druid that you were expecting to get back right
Yeah,
there, Mr. Elves Master.
at least give me a shapeshifter.
I just love that as soon as it came into the format, all of a sudden everyone had to buy those. For all of us who play camera play, right? All of a sudden everyone's like, well, I guess I need to buy that token because it comes on my board and my opponent is not going to hand it to me. It's one of those strange effects that does that, right? So it's like everyone needs a monarch token, right? Because if you get the monarch, your opponent's not handing you the token. Everyone needs that XX illusion, right? It's all of a sudden your token collection just builds up a little bit more to have access to every game.
Yeah, I've got a healthy stack on my desk here.
Is that Pashalik Mons?
It looks like it.
Oh, all right. This changes math as well. So every sack is now 2 damage, right?
Yes, yeah.
This is a scary spot to be when you're Nacho, but you just need to spend the Plague Engineer and get burned for 6.
Um,
Wait, what happened? Oh, was it Caracas back? Oh, okay, that makes sense. It is a
it
legend,
is a
isn't it?
legendary creature. I think the only hit in the deck? No, Muxus. Muxus. Which, if you're, I don't know if you're Caracasing back a Muxus
I
though.
mean, it can stop you from dying, but it won't stop you from dying the next turn.
Yeah,
Unless, of course, you bounce it, play Meddling Mage. I know what's in your hand. It's a Muxus. Oh, goodness gracious. Looks like we're going for the slamming the Plague Engineer now. Name Goblin. Get burned for 3. Nacho should be going down to 8, I believe. And Big C, of course, gaining life off the Slinking Lieutenant, correct? Yes. Okay. So Big C will be going up to 21. And this is a scary situation for Big C, right? You can, of course, just go land drop Muxus and completely change the state of the game. However, at the moment, you are looking down 5 attackers. Oh, these
is that a Tarfire?
Pyrokinesis.
Oh, Pyrokinesis.
Pyrokinesis comes in. Oh, what's so amazing about this is because the Meddling Mage was swung, You can kill the Skyclave Apparition and the Plague Engineer. Then you get the 4/4. You can go ahead and block the the Meddling Mage, and this has just completely shifted it. What an amazing pyrokinesis!
Yeah.
What was that? What that was? That was the Pashlik Mons that was ditched. Makes sense in the face of this Karakas. You're not going to be able to. You're probably not going to be able to leverage it that well. I gotta wonder what this last card in hand is for Big C though.
Yeah, that was a blowout for sure. That is
That
not what you want to see if you're Nacho.
that is kind of the classic scary thing that happens with Skyclave Apparition when you also have this deck of small little guys, which turns out most Skyclave Apparition decks have a bunch of small little guys. You swing in and all of a sudden you get 2 for 1 by your own token that you generated.
Or in that case, 3 for 2.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. Is this going to be Land Muxus? Show it to me. I want to see what's on the top of the deck. Show me that top 6. I got to read
Doesn't
Muxus
look
again. It
like
is
it.
top 6, but nope.
Looks
I
like we're
mean,
gonna see a 3 drop.
2 cards in hand for Nacho.
Mom. Okay.
The good old mother of goblins coming in. So what we
Red
getting?
mom.
Red mom.
Um
Red mom. Goblin mom. Tarfire? Interesting.
I wish they would bring back tribal cards, because I've got a couple of the tribal elf and otherwise that are fun.
It's kind of just a
Tribal
rules
instants.
nightmare.
What?
It's kind of a rules nightmare, but it's okay. Let's make Goyf a little bit
It's
better. Let's make
magic.
Goyf. Let's.
Everything is a rules nightmare.
Oh, that's so true. All right. I mean, we were able to force through 4 damage. We need we need some action. We a blocker isn't going to be enough unless it's able to actually trade away with this 4/4. Big C with that 1 card in hand still.
Notably, another Skyclave apparition on the on the 4/4
Does
just
not
gets
work.
rid of it.
No, it
Oh,
does
it's a
not.
token
You
only.
cannot
Yeah,
target
yeah, yeah.
tokens.
Oh,
And
Flicker Wisp then
Scry
maybe.
2. Okay, we aren't going to life gain option. That in theory gets us in another turn, but that's not really what we're wanting. We're just going to go ahead and scry and make sure that the next draw is live. Nacho with a single other card in hand. That pyrokinesis, Mike, that was so amazing at turning around the game. Literally right beforehand, I'm talking about how it looks like Big C's in a hard situation, and then the 3 for 2 for free is just amazing. What a fantastic card.
Seeing Nacho be absolutely excellent with the card etiquette, making sure that we're seeing exactly where the cards are going, how many cards in hand.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the most important things on our Discord, right? You have those key players who we point to as pinnacle examples of how you properly brainstorm, right? Um, Evil, for instance, who's also in this league final bracket, is another player who is just fantastic at making it very clear these 3 cards are coming out for brainstorm. These exact 2 cards are back. You can see them distinctly. Um, one of the most important things when we're playing in this online format, right?
Another charming prince. Probably going to scry those 2 to the bottom.
Probably. I wanted to see the flicker. Let's flicker the charming prince and then do it again. But you know what? It's all right. Let's minimize the game actions.
I'm going to flicker my charming prince. The charming prince that comes back is going to scry the 2 to the bottom.
Oh, I just realized something. Can they not? Is it one of those restoration angel type things? Oh no, never mind. Well, this is a hard situation. Do you go for the double block? Just trade the 2 for the 4/4. I feel like we're priced into that, but we would just be blown out by munitions expert or I mean really anything.
Yeah, I think Nacho's best bet is not, and then hopefully having like a flicker wisp or something to find more action.
Not attacking with the 4/4. Really interesting.
Okay.
Looks like Big C asking about all the mana sources. Is there a port there? Yeah, it looks like
Big C
porting
does have a
upkeep is
port.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've
Yeah,
got a
it seems like they're gonna
tundra, a swamp. Looks like porting the swamp.
Yeah, it's the only black source. Everything else already has 2 color pips available. You still not just still able to fetch. Ooh, this brainstorm looks good, especially with this open fetch land. What is Big C holding on to? There has to be a Muxus in hand, right? We've been going about 3 to 4 turns with this one card being stuck in hand. No land drops being made. Are we just waiting for the last land drop and then going to go ahead and slam for Muxus?
That would be amazing.
With Cavern in play, so of course it don't matter if you kept Force of Wills in your deck. This thing is resolving. Oh, Wastelands. Oh, just Nacho see it. Nacho, wait, please.
I think at this point too, right? You have so much mana that
You don't need the color. You don't need the colors pips. And one of the cards that you lose to absolutely is a Muxus.
yeah, and then you just hit the cavern, right?
Yeah, I would imagine so. You could hit port too. It really does depend on whether or not Nacho honestly has if Nacho does have Force of Will still in the deck. The other thing of note, our screen also, if you can see, our stream tech is just kind of changing things around a little bit, just to zoom in a little bit more on Nacho's board state.
All right,
Wasteland
we are
hitting
gonna
the black source. I can appreciate that as well. Um, is a little interesting where the cavern is also producing that black, uh, and also is able to produce green for the mass vandal if it becomes relevant again. But
Skyclave. All
Skyclave
right.
coming down. We're hitting that goblin matron, so
Yep.
that is the only choice. Wizards thinking ahead about somebody having multiple Skyclave apparitions in their deck and making it so you cannot target tokens. And Merit Lodge players everywhere rejoiced at realizing that.
3 cards in hand for Big C, and their rip was a land. So that wasteland could have been a huge deal.
Really just depend what these other two cards are in hand.
Oh, is there 2 caverns? I guess it makes sense then.
The cavern
It
was
doesn't.
just played as the second one.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Again, in the end, it wasn't relevant at all, but we do see the fetch land Nacho going down to 3. Thank goodness there's no lightning bolts in these decks, and the one tar fire is gone already. What is the potential burnout? So, actually, of note, what this does of going down to 3 is a Sling Gang Lieutenant off the top is an instant win.
Yeah.
But I think that's just about it. And of course, just one Sling Gang left in the deck. Those are the only real potential burnouts that I can see being as potentially happening.
Um, if we can flicker these charming princes, we can start gaining some life.
Oh, it's very true.
But
Meddling Mage, you have to name Muxus here, right?
yeah, yeah, I mean, it seems like the best late game name there.
And Big C's been floating on this 5 mana for so long with these cards that are just stuck in hand and not coming out. I can't imagine much else that they could be
Really
pursuing.
cool playmat there for Big C.
Hard cast Pyrokinesis. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that is rough.
Those seem like the ideal ones. You get a 3/3 token. Swing in with that 4/4, please. Do you double block?
No,
Okay.
I
I kind
I don't.
I kind of like it. So a flicker wisp off the top is getting you to an advantage state. You basically just flicker the one. We're
But we are
seeing
gonna
double block.
see double block.
There's no. I like this a lot because Big C is tapped out. Both pyrokinesises are gone. There's no chance of being blown out. It is just a clean trade. The only issue now is you need exactly something off the top. Are they talking about something being?
Oh, just talking about where it goes. It looks like Big C went to put it in the graveyard, but it is because he was using the card that
Oh,
got exiled
yeah,
by
yeah, yeah.
Skyclave
That's a very
as
good
the
point. I
token.
thought that was the pyrokinesis for a moment. Card off the top is it swords or something with flash? Is there anything with flash in this deck? Oh, I guess there's
Um,
Venser.
Swords.
Okay, that was a live draw. That was pretty sweet. What a fantastic game too! Can I just say this has been a nail biter for about the past for 4 or 5 rounds. Mass
No
Vandals come
value
down.
mass. Yep, yep. No value mass vandal.
That I guess the Mass Vandal was the card that was being held onto for so long there. It just wasn't going to be actually changing the pressure much at all, it being a 1/3 against all those 2/2s, and Big C, I guess, just holding on to it, um, waiting for a potential Vial to come down.
Recruiter.
Nacho chaining some real fantastic draws here. Um,
What are we getting? Plague engineer.
I mean, you have 3 in your deck now, right, after sideboarding. You don't get to deploy it right now, but heart of the cards, Big C. Let's see what you got off the top. Removals, you can attack in, force a block, and
A
down to
sling gang
2.
off the top here would be amazing.
Oh, wouldn't it?
You just trade with the lackey here, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, otherwise, you're just chump blocking the Mass Vandal. It's the same amount of damage. That's just a clear choice. And Wasteland coming down. Mm,
So wasting off that second black
Caracas.
source.
Okay, we're seeing the Tundra disappear.
Oh,
Or
interesting.
no, it looks like we're
I would
overthinking it a little bit.
I would waste the scrub land here. Yeah.
Okay.
And that way you get to port the swamp during the upkeep.
That's so true. I didn't think about that. Oh, no.
Yep. So
Heads up
now
Wasteland there.
Nacho's got to rip a black source, which that is a black source, I believe.
I mean, there's so
Um,
many duels in your deck. I can't imagine it isn't.
one scrub.
We see a
Oh,
UC coming
underground
out
sea. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Going
of
down to
note.
one
Of note,
life.
this this Plague Engineer does not stop the Mass Vandal from existing, right? It just turns it into an O2. So a removal spell off the top gets there. It can't be Munitions Expert. Oh, wow.
What is that?
That's a Goblin Ringleader. With Cavern Mana, doesn't really matter too much. Let's see what's coming.
Lackey.
Lackey, which dies. Oh, is that Chain Whirler? That's Chain Whirler. That's lethal. We're gonna see wait. Deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. That is amazing. We're about to see the Goblin Chain Whirler come down with Cavern Protection to deal the last damage to Nacho. Nacho at this point needs exactly a life gainer, which I believe has to be the
We've
Charming
already
Princes,
seen
which are
both
gone.
charming princes.
Oh no! Oh wait,
Or of
Meddling Mage does
ooh.
it too. Meddling Mage naming Chain Whirler. What is going on? This is amazing.
I was just gonna say a Venser would be fine. Um
This is what a nutty game this has been. So swingy. And Nacho just holding on bit by bit by bit, but bleeding 1 damage at a time.
yeah, this is bananas. If Big C can rip any +1/+1 or any Goblin Lords off the top, that would be
Yeah, we hit Lackey as the only other goblin in that top 4, right? It was Lackey and Chain Whirler. Those are the 2 cards that Big C is shuffling around right now.
and a second Masked Vandal? Or maybe that
Oh,
was the
wait.
draw per turn.
Maybe that was in there. Maybe I thought that was a land.
I don't
It's so weird having a different color bordered card in there. Munitions Expert, that's it. That's the game.
Yeah.
Of course, Munitions Expert dying right away.
What an exciting game
That was so
to
fantastic. That was great. And now we get to go into a game 3 with Nacho being on the play. Nacho just not able to hold on, but made it so many turn cycles in a row, almost stabilizing, almost getting there. The
I think
Pyrokinesis being huge.
and the Tarfire.
That's true. That forced in 4 damage. May have only taken out a 1/1. I believe it took out the recruiter, but because there were the charming princes that came down at a later point, removing that actually just turned out to be clutch. You forced them down.
Well,
You forced Nacho down to 4 damage, and there was no more tutors coming.
and being able to tutor for it with Matron was, like, perfect timing.
Oh, absolutely. That was fantastic. That was such a fantastic game. Do you think sideboarding changes at all from what we previously saw? So
Uh,
on let's see, on Nacho's side, we did see for sure an increase on the plague engineers. I believe we only saw one skyclave apparition, so we're not sure if those went up. And of course, the increase on source of plowshares, we aren't quite sure of either.
yeah, I think where it was, I mean, where we were on that is probably where it should, where I would assume it was gonna stay. But I'm also not an expert on either of these decks. I've never even played either of these decks because I don't have the cards. So
I will say I feel less high on Gilded Drake now. I
yeah,
think that is a lot more questionable. At so many points of that game, a top deck Gilded Drake, when you don't have any of the Flicker engines, you don't have the Soul Herder, you don't have the Charming Princess, excuse me. Um, it's just something that's going to clock you. You have no way to interact with the flyers besides your Baleful Strix. So I'm a little less high on that. Out of goblins, we did see the two pyrokinesises. We did see the second mass vandal come in and the tar fire, kind of everything we expected,
I
except no pithing needle.
I do think on the draw, I think you are right that Pithing Needle gets a lot more value.
Just take out maybe 2 chalices, or I'm sorry, 2 vials and put in 2 pithing needles. That is definitely a potential.
Um, I mean, if you're bringing in the Pithing Needles specifically for Vial, I might even go down all 4 just for those other sideboard cards.
Yeah.
I don't when you've got a Pithing Needle on Vial, drawing that later is just gonna be the worst draw. It's gonna be just objectively worse than drawing even like a Red Blast.
Big C going down to 6 here. Looks like Nacho's keeping the 7 on the play, of course. Ooh, this is not looking that great for Big C for sure.
I mean, again, that is my opinion.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Big as all things that we commentate, there's a big IMO on everything that we say, right? One of my favorite things about the legacy format is that you can give an exact 75 to two prolific players, and they can have completely different approaches to the matchup depending on the who's going first, depending on what they previously saw. Sideboarding is definitely an art in Legacy. Let's put it like this. It's almost an expression of your play style. I cannot tell you how many vigorous debates I have gotten in about sideboarding regarding
Well,
like one of my favorite decks, Infect. And in the end, both of us coming to the conclusion of actually your plan's pretty good. No, your plan's pretty good too, right? It's all about how you as an individual approach the matchup and the cards that you really want to be focusing on.
and I think that's also where your experience with a deck really shines, right? Because I think a lot of people could pick up most 60s and string together something. But when you're talking about sideboarding and being like, okay, what am I really worried about? What do I have to concern myself with as far as how they're going to interact with my game plan? How do I interact with their game plan? That's where your experience with the deck really shines.
Incredibly good point. I think that's very, very true. Your experience with both the deck and the greater matchup, right?
So Nacho notably fetching for a basic here, which to me either signals I can't afford to lose any lands, or I have more lands in my hand that I can get my colors later.
Yeah, wasteland me, baby, wasteland me. And this is kind of this is my big takeaway from Vial. Every time that I play against it, when you're playing a 4 wasteland deck, landing 2 wastelands just feels so backbreaking for them, right? Like it isn't really the first wasteland that destroys them. It can kind of make them stumble, but it's the second one that just feels lights out a lot of the time.
I mean, so Esper Vial only has 3 basics, right? Which I mean, I play elves and I only play 3 basics, so I guess I can't say only. But having what's this? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, technically 9 wastelandable mana sources can be really backbreaking, which, we've mentioned
Absolutely.
this recently that Wasteland, Back to Basics, Blood Moon have such high stock right now.
Well, it turns out that they're actually relevant again, right? With the Astrolabe banning, which I mean, we've been talking about that for ages now. That almost feels like the distant past of Legacy at this point. We're seeing the second basic though, so we are definitely going to be. Wasteland is not a great card against us at the moment. I really love seeing this from Nacho. It's all a matter of whether or not your opening hand can really support it, though, right?
Yeah. Searching black white also to me, taking out the cavern there, which I do like.
Yeah, that's the craziest part of the Esper Vial mana base to me, right? Is that you of yourself are this 3-color deck with kind of abusable mana for your opponent, right? They can definitely interact with you on that access and take
Ooh,
you off. But then you're playing your own wastelands as well, right? Like, it just feels amazing sometimes to see. Great Baleful Strix art, by the way. I am such a big fan of this owl.
it looks like we're seeing in response to the draw trigger.
We are in combat on Big C's side right now.
Yes.
Okay, with the swinging with the lackey. Okay, Badlands Tarfire. Do we have the Tarfire?
Yep.
Oh, that feels great. So we need to draw a removal spell with this. Of course, that Baleful Strix is dead. Wait, I'm confused. All right, yeah. Everything that that needed to happen happened. Just happened in a slightly off order.
I wonder if we're gonna see what we're gonna see here.
I mean, it's hitting. Damage is being marked. Triggers being put on the stack. Show it to me. I want to see a Muxus flip. We have been talking about this match for like 30 minutes now, and we have not seen a Muxus flip yet. I mean, Big
If
C's
there
tanking.
were yeah, if there were a Muxus in hand, that would be windmill slapped onto the table so fast.
We're seeing a Crater Maker come down instead.
Yeah, and that feels a little bit bad, especially not being able to do that right now.
Yeah, not having the third land of note for Big C, right? The second one was wastelanded. Not having the other land to play and be able to blow up this Aether Vial before it hits 3, which is really the sweet spot for this deck, right? That's exactly where you want your Aether Vials to chill out.
Right in the pocket, as they say.
That's a really good way to put it. Well, we'll have to see what happens here. Nacho with a relatively full grip. I believe we have 4 cards in hand before this fetch land coming down. And of note, we have a blue fetch. We can get the perfect basic mana base right now.
I wonder what we're gonna see here. Swords, yeah.
I
Swords the
imagine this is
lackey.
oh, do we not have another creature to be putting into play? Do we not have a 3-drop to put in? That's really interesting. Of course,
Gonna get in for that damage
it
first.
seems like Nacho drew the swords that turn, right?
So I guess it really depends here for Big C. Do I want to commit something else to the board, or do I want to just deal with the vial? And I think the answer is probably just deal with the vial.
I feel like that has to be correct.
Not vialing in anything in response, and that is a huge signal.
Yeah, I think we kind of knew that was happening as soon as there was the swords being spent on the lackey itself. There was, I mean, you can just file in a 2/2 and you can trade with, or you can block away the lackey, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing Tundra come down. We are no longer going for the basics. Nacho maybe showing that they have a Skyclave Apparition in hand. Flicker was potentially needing that double white.
Already had the island in hand, so
Oh,
that
well, that'll
explains
do it
why.
too.
Yeah.
That'll do it too. Scry 2. Big C really
Yeah.
jealous of these land drops that are being made on the other side of the table.
I am sure. Like we were saying in game 1, there are not a ton of one drops in the deck. I mean, there are in that, there are 10, but Vial at this point in the game, when you are just in such a position of being down on mana,
Swings in for 2. Starts
and this
getting some
is,
damage marked on Big C.
and we see a cavern.
That's good. That's kind of the ideal land for us to be drawing at this point. Okay. Now that right there, that is a good card. We are seeing the one, the only, the Goblin pile driver coming in, right? So of note, this you cannot block this with a Baleful Strix. You can, in fact, hit it with a Skyclave Apparition, though. Well, it seems like Nacho's just on that bare beats at this point, right? Just gonna be able to swing with the 2/2s.
Another lackey. which can't really attack.
No, you're not going to be able to get in on this. There is potential for Nacho to get greedy here. Oh, okay, there's a brainstorm coming in. If Nacho doesn't have another creature deploy, attacks with one of the 2/2s, and then Big C has the munitions expert to be able, or a Tarfire as well, to be able to remove the one blocker and then be able to get from there. That would be quite fantastic.
I think after game 2, with the number of with the blowouts that we saw, which I think we saw 2 huge blowouts from Big C, I'm feeling Nacho will be playing things a little bit closer to the chest, a little bit on the
Yeah,
safe side.
trying to not just die to a pyrokinesis, especially when you're just chaining creatures. Another Scry 2 knows what they are from the brainstorm. The fetch land when you have a Charming Prince, okay?
I Yeah, I almost would have, unless Nacho has another brainstorm or something of the like in hand.
We're seeing third land finally. I believe
And
that
the
is on
port?
port. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, this is a moment for pyrokinesis to blow out.
the port at Rashadan.
And we're just passing, untapping with an impressive amount of mana.
Mm. The port at Rashadan, just down the hill from the tabernacle at Pendrell Vale.
Seeing Caracas come down, all of a sudden Muxus is less good of a hit. Although,
I
like we've
I
talked about before, it'll still do its thing. It'll just
I
recast it.
apologize for my transgressions there.
You are fine. I just kind of ignored it and kept going, as you can tell. And of course, Pashalik Mons also being a relatively bad card now at this point. Ooh, hit the Skyclave, make a 2/2. I imagine trade away with one of these Charming Princes.
We're seeing something that Goblins is just really good at here too, right? Just one for oneing.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty amazing. Wait, where's the what happened
He
with the
he made the token and then blocked the Charming Prince and traded with the Charming Prince.
Charming Prince is a 2/2, right? Or is it a 2/3? Am I misremembering?
It's a 2/2. There were 2
Why
Charming
did
Princes on the field.
so yeah, why was because your token that you made was a 2/2. It
Right.
had hit a Goblin Rabble Master. Okay, I think they're going back and correcting that. So the 2/2 that was made from the Skyclave apparition dying was a 2/2 itself, or was a 2/2 and able to trade with a Charming Prince without needing to throw the munitions expert under it.
Oh, okay. The double block happened. I missed
Yeah,
that.
I did as well. Seeing fetch land come down, show me the other munitions expert. It looks like Nacho with 1 or 2 cards in hand potentially. It's never a good sign when a player takes out their phone to check their messages. You know what I mean? That's that is not a show of strength.
F6 as they say.
Yeah,
Uh
F6. Oh, we're seeing Matron for Tarfire. I'm calling it right now. Matron for Tarfire. Okay, never mind. Who needs it?
uh,
All right, I'm bad. We all know this. Oliver V, master of the bad takes,
I mean, you
incorrect
can only
decisions.
count to 10, so
You know, I'd have to count to 20 sometimes with noble hierarchs. You know, it's all right.
oh, last
Just
Infect game I played, I got absolutely decimated by a Noble Hierarch.
it's the best feeling in the world. It really is. One of
28 damage to me in 1 turn, I think.
Shout out to Blind Tyrant, another one of our resident Infect players on the Discord, who always keeps track of which kills or which noble hierarchs have gotten kills with tallying marks. Oh, so Soul Herder coming down in an immediate Pyroblast while it's still on the stack.
So we did see the Pyroblasts come in, which or the Red Elemental Blasts come in, which I think is generally fine.
It makes sense after that game one with how Soul Herder just absolutely took over. Seeing it go back, as soon as we're on Big C's side, we're going to go ahead and slam the Trash Master that was 2 to 4 on the previous turn. Chump block with the Charming Prince, so only 4 coming in, and we don't have to worry about that combat trigger. And the onus is really on Nacho now at this point.
Is Charming
Oh,
Prince a 1/1?
No, Charming Prince is a 2/2. The lackey got +1/+1 from the Trash Master.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, pass back. This is scary. This isn't quite onboard lethal, but it is 7, and this is now lethal on board.
Yeah.
That is a 3/3, a 3/3, and 2/2/2s. And hey, we get to
Revealing
see Muxus this game. It's not actually coming into play, but we're seeing it off of ringleader triggers at least.
they are in the deck, in fact.
It turns out they are there. They were just right next to each other the whole time, swinging for lethal. This is a good 10. So sword saves it, but let's see what's in Nacho's hand. Oh, revealing 3
Mhm.
lands.
Yeah, that I feel like it kinda not missing a land drop and then just so many scries to the bottom. That was, and it looks like all the action was clumped up there.
May I say, this was just such a fantastic match. Every single game had some really interesting narratives that happened in it. The first game, we had Nacho have both of his the only 2 lands of the game get wastelanded away and get there off of Vials, which was really dominant, showing this amazing snowball effect that we saw Soul Herder and really its effect on the game. Game 2, Big C with just so many pyrokinesis blowouts and able to just like slowly get there. Nacho kept almost stabilizing, being able to stop the life loss, and but Big C in the end able to get there through just these repeated blowouts. And then this last
Really,
game, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, really showing us how good Goblins is at the grind.
Oh, for sure. And this last game was also a testament to that, right? Where
Mhm.
Big C getting the second land wastelanded away and stuck on 1 mana for just, I mean, what was that, 2, 3 turns, but able to slowly get there just from, I mean, all these cards having the 2-for-1s, right? The Munitions Expert being a 2-for-1, the Goblin Matron going and getting the Trash Master to turn off future Plague Engineers. Really, this was a fantastic match that really showed the strength of both of these decks. This was an amazing grind to watch for sure.
Yeah, this was a wonderful match.
Well, for everyone who's watched this, thank you so much for watching this quarterfinals match of the MTGPL Discord April monthly league. We will be back. Go ahead and hit that bell icon, like and subscribe to see all of our future content that is posted to the YouTube, and come back to watch some of our other quarterfinal matches. Big Mike and I will be over here commentating on a few of them as well. And if you want to get in on this paper legacy action, go ahead and join our Discord. Hop in. We actually have our May monthly league firing up. It probably will have started by the time this video is already posted, but hop in, join our events. We have weekly challenges, we have monthly leagues, we have an active LFG channel. But before we head out, Big Mike, you got anything else to say before we go?
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Take care. Let us be your local meta.